Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Never Thirst Again. My name is Chrissy Smith, and I'm your podcast host. And listen, today is a good day. So I really hope that you guys are just taking the time to really enjoy it. I mean, I was in my car the other day and I was reminded of something that happened several years ago. And by several, I mean, it's been about at least 6 or 7 years that's passed since then. I don't know if you guys remember this, but do you remember when the whole pay it forward movement was taking place in America? Yeah, people were doing things like, paying for another person's gas while they were at the gas station, or just like hopping out of their car while they're at the stoplight to close someone's little door on their gas tank. I mean, people they really gravitated towards this movement, and I loved it. And I just remember in the midst of that, one morning I had to wake up super early for an appointment. Now, if you know anything about me, I usually do not schedule any kind of appointment or meeting, whatever the case may be. I usually don't schedule those before 10:30. That's just my window. But for some reason, my appointment was scheduled for 8:30 a.m. So, with this just being just a regular doctor's appointment, I decided, let me go ahead, get started on my morning routine. So, I got up and I got my son dropped off at school. And, we just went on ahead and made sure that everything else was straight. So, I made my way to that side of town where my doctor's office was. And I decided, since I had gotten over there a little early, why don't I stop and grab some breakfast from McDonald's? So I pulled up at the restaurant. I got out of the car and I stood in line with a couple of other people who were ahead of me. They were waiting to place their orders too. So I just kind of stood there being the last person staring at the menu. Well, as I stood there, I remember trying to figure out exactly what I wanted. I finally settled on just their little sausage McGriddle with a cup of coffee, and that was that. So, when I finally got up to the front of the line and I gave my order, of course, I pulled out my card and waited for the cashier to give me the total so that I could pay for my food and coffee. But she never did. So, I stood there, politely asked her, how much do I owe? It was really subtle, but I noticed that when I asked her the question, she looked up at the guy who was standing off to the side. She gave him a nod, and then back to me, she said, no charge. Someone took care of it for you already. What? Who? I asked her. Then she pointed to the guy who I'd seen her give the nod to. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man with long dreads that hung halfway down his back. He seemed like a giant who was standing before little old me. Now, I remember vividly, he was wearing a heavy green cargo jacket and a pair of cargo pants and work boots. So it was clear that he was either stopping in on his way to work or taking a break from working his third shift job. But when I looked at him, he was standing there with his head down and both of his hands were jammed into his pockets. So, of course, I wanted to thank him. So I said, "Good morning, sir. Were you the one who paid for my breakfast this morning?" He responded with a slow, "Yes, ma'am, it was me." Meanwhile, he was looking at the floor. So I said back to him, "Well, thank you. That was a really sweet thing for you to do." And I said it with the biggest smile that I could. I wanted to be polite. So he actually countered back with, Well, miss, someone did the same thing for me a few days ago, and I had promised myself that when I got paid today, I was going to do the same exact thing for someone else. So I said to him, well, now that you've done it for me, I have to pay it forward too. I promise I'll make sure to show someone else the same kindness that you showed to me this morning. This man, who barely had given me any eye contact the whole entire time that we were talking, he looked up at me with the biggest, brightest smile that one could ever imagine. And then he went on his way out the door. Now, that morning, I sat down at the table and I ate my sausage McGriddle and I drank my coffee before hopping in the car and making my way to my doctor's appointment. But thinking about that simple act of kindness all day had literally livened up my spirit for the rest of that day and probably for the rest of that week. That was enough to take me all the way through. Simply put, a stranger had taken the time to pour into me because he thought it necessary to pay it forward. I don't know why, but if I'm being honest, I found myself reflecting on this scripture. Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers, for some have entertained angels unawares. Maybe the shy, broad-shouldered man was an angel. Maybe he wasn't. Whatever the case, though, I have to say that I am so grateful for that moment with the stranger. It was a simple yet divine interaction between two people that God ordained to be in the right place at the right time together. And if we look in the Bible, God teaches us so much about what compassion and brotherly love is supposed to look like. In providing accommodation for others through our actions and not just our words, God gives us a higher call to action by being demonstrative with our love in a number of ways. So, today, my friends, let us use the story of the stranger who decided to pay it forward as a way to show love and hospitality to those that we come in contact with. Let it resonate in your spirits today. And may kindness and love flow from all of us on this week. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in today. And don't forget to subscribe to Never Thirst Again on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Podbean. And for my listeners who may utilize some of our other platforms out there, I will make sure to list those platforms in the description of this podcast so that you'll be able to view the other ones that I'm also available on. Well, to all of you, have a wonderful rest of your day. God bless and take care.